Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson. Happy Transgiving. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I'm sure someone has already coined that phrase. I've just been kind of thinking about like what should I say for Thanksgiving because it's Thanksgiving. Like we should probably say something for it. And I think there's a lot coming up for some people if they're seeing their families because they might get misgendered, or there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up if you're new to being trans or you're seeing, family members that are less tolerant. And yeah, that's, that kind of sucks. And there's the things about that make being trans during Thanksgiving hard. But I want to flip the script a little bit and talk about some of the positive things about being trans on Thanksgiving. And I kind of wonder, like, what your thoughts are on being trans and some of the things that you're thankful for. I wanted to share some of my thoughts as, my experience, and also kind of get that out there to you to think about. So that's what this is for today. So let's go through that list. I think the most important thing, and something that I'm really happy about in being trans, is that I get to be trans. I know that sounds like really strange, but the whole experience of being trans is probably one of the fewest, most rarest and unique experiences that you can possibly have, especially if you've aged for a certain time under one gender and switched, so you've gotten used to being that gender, and now you're suddenly relearning your entire experience of life because you've already gotten used to living that life. I transitioned late, and I put that into quotes because late, what is late? Late is such a relative term. Like, when did you transition? Do you consider that late? I feel like everyone, whenever they transition, they always consider it late because they compare themselves to people younger than them who have transitioned earlier. There's always going to be someone who transitioned earlier. It's just a nature of the beast, and there's always going to be someone who does it later. So like late for me is probably really early for someone else and is late for someone else. So later, right? But as someone that has transitioned later, I feel like there's some things that I've missed out on and that I feel envious of people who are younger. But at the same time, there's certain gifts in this experience that you just don't get to have unless you've lived as one person long enough. And I've lived as a man for more than 20 years. And most of my life, I've lived most of my life because I've only transitioned for like 2.5 years. So, and I didn't know I was trans for most of it. So when you, like, how many people out there have transitioned and for most of their life didn't know they were trans? I'd say there's a lot of you out there. I'd love to hear what your experience has been like. But for me, doing this great shift has been a huge life refresh. Suddenly the world is new and it's full of life, and I can breathe in a new way that just makes me so happy and full of joy. The gender euphoria is just so it fills you with flowers, regardless of where you are. Doesn't the gender euphoria just feel like so amazing? That's like the kind of cocaine high you just want to like get on. Like, can we crush up some gender euphoria and just all kind of like do a line of that today? That would be great. By the way, I'm not condoning doing drugs and cocaine and anything like that. Definitely don't want to encourage that. That's not good stuff to do, by the way, not good stuff. But gender euphoria is great stuff. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. Like when you put on that dress and it just changes your experience and it makes you realize like how special and how amazing the world can be when you just soak it up and be true to who you are. Isn't that the best? Isn't that the most amazing thing? Doesn't that make it worth it to feel like you can truly be yourself and express that in a way where other people, whether or not they agree or not, they know you're being you, And it's even better when people accept you for that. And hopefully you've been able to find those people that do. But yeah, just that honesty, that vulnerability, that love and enjoyment and happiness in being who you are is just invaluable. When I was talking to my psychic, I talk to a psychic every year. And when I was asking her about this whole trans thing, she's like, well, what's the cost of really being who you are and being honest with that versus pretending to be something else for the rest of your life. And at the time when I was a man, I was like, well, like I'm pretty happy being a man, and what really is the cost of being trans? It seems like I lose a lot of things. And we are loss preventative. We want to avoid losing things. Like, how many times would you say you're like, yeah, I'm going to lose that and I'm okay with that? Well, you transition and you're trans. And so you're probably like, well, I'm okay with losing some of my gender privilege because I gained this much greater and deeper thing. And on the other side of understanding and thinking that I was okay being a cis male, gosh, I was so wrong. The value in transitioning is so great. There's so much greatness, and you get to redefine your gender and what it means to be your gender because you're older and you're wiser, and so you don't just get indoctrinated with what it means to be your gender when you're born and then just live by that your entire life. You get to, for me, it's like, what does it mean to be a woman, and which parts do I want and which parts that I don't? It's not exactly perfect, though. There are parts of like beauty and socialized beauty that is ingrained in my mind that is still a part of my experience that I can't leave. But for the most part, I'm just so happy getting to be who I am. And so I'm just so thankful for being trans and so happy for it. I think there's also this part where there's the why me syndrome, or what I call the tragedy of being trans. This idea of just like, well, why do I have to be trans? Why couldn't I just be cis? My life would be so much easier. And yeah, it probably would be easier, but think about all of the learning experiences you've had and think about the perspective you have. Like, do you feel like you have maybe a perspective that can add value to the world, that can change the way people see things? Do you think that questioning some of these most essential assumptions of our gender has made you a better person? And do you think that gives you the ability to kind of share something that's a unique message or a different angle with the rest of the world? We need perspective. We need many different perspectives, and we need people to question some of the most fundamental assumptions of how we live and exist in this world. Otherwise, we're just going to be blind to some things that we just have no idea about. And opening the gender question and opening that conversation is super important, especially right now, as we're just continuing to build. If we didn't have that, we'd just be continuing to build on gender norms and just like living in a way where perhaps there'd be less freedom and there's less ability to really define who you are and celebrate that. What do you think about that? Are there things in your life where you found you've been able to improve other people's lives just by existing and showing up and being yourself? How much power do you give to someone to just be like, you know what, I'm just myself, and sure, some people don't accept that, but here I am. Here I am. You're giving so much permission to other people to be themselves. And I think that's a really magical thing about being trans. Now, I'm sure you and I know, we know about all the bad things, and we can focus on that, but there's so many good things. And I just wanted to get that conversation out there to get us thinking about what we can be thankful for, what we can love and embrace in ourselves, and really accept a part of this experience of being trans. Yeah, there's those days that you cry and you feel upset about your trans experience, being misgendered, just body dysphoria, our trans rights being taken away, or, friction there. But there's just some beautiful days. Oh, and one more thing. The community. By being separated and identified as trans and being like, you're separate, all this, there's also this just beautiful aspect that we've come together on. Like, there's this online community. There's like YouTube and Reddit and Instagram and you name it. There's so many places, Discord, there's so many places where we can find a place to commune and have people that understand that. And before, as a cis male, there was just no way for me to find a community for myself because I didn't understand myself in that way. And, being a cis male, it's like you're privileged. Why do you need a group to kind of like work with? Because there's no drive or incentive to create any group around a common purpose. Your common purpose has to be more specific, like playing games or, meditation or what have you. So I think that's also really cool that we have this community and we can support each other and we can help build on top of the momentum of what we learn and experience. I don't know. What do you think? This has been Tea Time. It's an unedited and unscripted series. If you like what you see, please write me a comment, say hello, and like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications around Sunday, because Sunday's the next video. I post these weekly. It's been nice seeing you, and maybe I'll see you in another episode. I'm Ashley Adamson, and I will see you, as they say in Berlin, shoes.